Hi, you guys. I'm Phil Town from Rule 1 Investing, and today I want to talk to you about the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 and what you need to know. President Biden signed the Inflation Reduction Act into law this August. The legislation is designed, theoretically, to reduce the deficit and lower inflation while investing in domestic energy production and lowering healthcare costs. Okay, sounds great. Question is, will it do that stuff? And how will this affect us no matter what, it claims to do? What impact on us will this have as investors? So let's think about this. Even if it does this lovely laundry list of politically wonderful things right before an election, it is going to be, by everybody's agreement, a long time before we start to see any of the effects that they're talking about. So while it may be an Inflation Reduction Act in some minor capacity, it's not going to do anything for years and years and years. And we need inflation reduced now. So if you want to know how to keep your wealth from diminishing, going away, disappearing, just by the dollar devaluation in the middle of inflation, and you want to do that now, what I'd kind of recommend here is you grab my inflation readiness checklist, and I've included a link to it in the description below. So go get that and start to use it to figure out how to maintain the value of your dollars. What should you be doing? All right. So now what do you need to know about this fabulously named Inflation Reduction Act? According to the White House, it's the, quote, single largest investment in climate and energy in American history. Now, what they must mean, of course, is by the government, because private firms have invested trillions of dollars in energy and development of climate gold energy producers like solar, like wind machines, like hydro. Private investors have been doing this in massive amounts of money for many, many years. So what he's talking about is, hey, we're going to centralize this a little bit, and we're going to put $374 billion into this thing. Now, where the money is going to go is toward renewable energy technology. So on one hand, the Biden administration is trying to squash the energy being produced by coal and oil and natural gas in favor of energy produced by renewable energy technology. And I got to say, I hope they're looking toward Europe to watch what happens when you try to go too fast, right? When you try to go too fast, you might end up in a situation where you're buying gas from your worst rival, from a really bad person who can control you, because otherwise you freeze to death. So it's rather important that the government move in a proper way toward energy independence, in my opinion. By the way, there's a really good book out there by a scientist named, I forget his first name, but his last name is Coonan, and he wrote a book called Unsettled, coming from the point of view of a climate scientist, which he is, and how unsettled the research is about how drastic the problem might be. Turns out the problem might not be so drastic as sort of the worst case scenarios are portraying, what you hear in the press and so on. In other words, we may not need to go whole hog toward, absolute energy independence and, destroy jobs in the process and have a lot of people really have problems around the world. So question is, what should we do? And I think, this act is a nice idea. They're going to put $374 billion out there. That's great. We're going to go for clean vehicle manufacturing facilities, tax rebates for consumers. So we're going to see more support for Tesla. Oh, wait a second. Maybe not, just because Tesla might, Elon Musk might not be the most favored guy in the White House right now. It is so politically loaded, all this stuff, you guys. And I hope you realize that. And just sit back as an investor and try to be rational, try to understand what's really happening and what the effect of that is going to be on us. So there's going to be tax rebates for consumers, by the way, who make energy efficient home improvements. I'm looking into this. I could get into putting, like solar panels up on our arena and gathering a bunch of energy. Okay, cool. I'd be very interested in it if it makes sense. and if it makes sense to buy an electric vehicle. I mean, certainly we're going down the road of electric vehicles far faster than the government ever thought we would, which is fabulous, right? I mean, we should have had electric vehicles from the start. I don't know if you know this, but I think in 1910, the fastest vehicle in the world was an electric car. The problem is they don't go very far because of battery problems, but they're working on that. Now, to lower energy costs, right? There's the goal. To lower energy costs and increase cleaner energy production and reduce carbon emissions by about 40% by the year 2030. Now, here's the thing. I just read this book, Unsettled, and I'll tell you, there's no need to be that drastic about carbon emissions, given the actual research that's going on. So just a few things that you might want to know that come out of this research. Number one, we're not having any worse hurricanes than we've had in the last 150 years. Number two, at least since they've been tracking it all the way back to 1900. Number two, the temperatures in the world, no different than they were about 1900. We're just having spikes. Fires, same kind of thing. So we've got a lot of up and down in the process of figuring out what's actually happening out there, because we are certainly influencing the environment in some way. The question is, how much of what's going on out there is really us? That's the tricky part of this whole thing. So I want you guys to just keep your feet on the ground when it comes to this sort of thing. We certainly are in favor of clean energy, clean world, no smog out there. But we've got to also be aware that we have an economy to maintain. We've got people who need jobs, and you can't have your cake and eat it too. So let's make sure we understand that the impact on climate change by reducing carbon emissions by 40% by the year 2030 will at best be minor, at best. So maybe we should just go a little different way here. Anyway, I'm open either way, and I'd love to hear from you guys. Use the inflation checklist linked below. Make sure that you're prepared for whatever may happen. By the way, Ray Dalio just came out and said that his projection for inflation is that it will hover around 5 to 6%, which isn't too bad. It's going to be there a long time, however. And if you've ever taken a look at how much money you're going to need to retire based on a 3% inflation rate, if you're 45 years old, you're going to need about $2 million in 20 years to retire at 3% inflation. If Dalio's right and we have 6% inflation, let's say it averages 4.5 to 5 over the next 20 years, you're going to need 5 to 6 million. So what are you going to do to combat this, you guys? You got to know how to continue to invest in any market condition. You've got to know how to do it on your own, because they can't do it by diversifying your portfolio, particularly in the next decade as the market flattens out. Use that checklist and start to figure out how you're going to be able to save money and be able to begin to generate generational wealth. Leave a comment below with your answer. I'll be sure to follow up with you, and thanks for watching. Now go play. If you enjoyed this video and think it was valuable for teaching you more about Inflation Reduction Act, hit the like button, share the video with your friends, and if you want more investing content, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to click the button on the screen for a free gift. Thanks again for watching.